Michelle Bachmann this week threw her hat into the ring, kind of. We think she's going to be running for president. For those who find Sarah Palin too intellectual. Michelle Bachmann for president. As a comedian, all I have to say is, where can I donate to this cause?
Dr. Hardball, Bill Maher's show, Real Time, is currently in its 9th season, going strong, and his brand of no-holds-barred, politically incorrect comedy makes it an interesting thing to watch every Friday night for a lot of us on HBO. Mr. Maher, welcome to Hardball. Apologies that Chris isn't here to give you a hard time. Let me start with last night's speech, the president, Libya. You were pretty tough on how this country got brought into 2 wars over the last 10 years. How's the president handled Libya? Did he explain it to you better last night than he had the previous 10 days?
I thought I was pretty clear on it from the beginning. But, you know, there's a lot of folks in this country, mostly on the right, who, of course, are going to oppose him no matter what he says. So he keeps having to explain it over and over again. You know, this is not a news cycle president. I think that's one thing that bothers them so much. He works on his time, the right time. He did everything right. You know, he got the Americans out of Libya, then he formed a coalition, then he led the bombing campaign, and of course we should bomb first because we have the know-how how to kick butt. That's what America does very well, especially in that part of the world. And then he passed it off, as he's doing now, to other people so that we don't have the cost and we don't have to be holding the bag if something goes wrong. I don't know how anyone can look at this and say this is exactly how it should have been done. I don't back the president on everything, but on this one, yeah, I think he did everything right. And yet I saw a poll today, I think it was a Reuters poll, like a small percentage of people see him as a strong and decisive leader, but they say he's cautious and consultative, like they're somehow mutually exclusive. Why can't cautious and consultative also mean you're strong? I think it can.
We're in a Twitter news environment, Bill. Don't you know that? All right, I want to go to, you've been getting hammered in the conservative blogosphere among a lot of conservative talk show hosts about some off-color comments you made about both Sarah Palin and Michelle Bachmann. Any regrets on what you said?
Well, you know, I've been through this so many times. I mean, there's a lot of people in America who have, of course, nothing to do except look for something to get mad at. And I've been a frequent target, and I'm happy to provide that service. So, you know, I always say, as I've said many times in these kind of situations, if I hurt somebody's feelings, I'm always sorry about that. I'm not trying to hurt somebody's feelings. But if you want me to say, I'm sorry, what I said was wrong, no, sorry, I can't go there. I know they were upset about what I was in Dallas Sunday night doing my stand-up comedy show, and apparently I was so off-color. And Dallas, you know, I really bastion of liberalism. Here's the headline from the Review: "Nothing but love for Maher." And on the next page, "Maher a hit in Dallas" is the other headline. That's from the Dallas Morning News. So, you know, I go by the community standard. You know, people have won cases about pornography based on this. They say, well, you know, if the community says it's okay, and apparently the community, I mean, you hear the laughter. If the audience likes it, I think that's where the community standard is. You know, am I a little more out there than the rest of the guys? Yeah, and I want to stay out there. That's what I do. That's why people watch it. But I don't think I'm really beyond where the community is.
Yeah, where do you say about yourself when somebody says, you're a member of the media, and you say, well, I'm an entertainer, I'm a comedian, but you're a member of the media, and you're a comedian? Do you have different rules than I have?
Yes, I do, Chuck. I have to be funny.
Yeah, well,
because I'm a comedian. And that is like a very, very big rule that Bill O'Reilly and like lots of other people do not have to follow. And yes, do I think that gives you a little more license? I certainly do. Because we're all just, you know, folks with an opinion at the end of the day. Now, you're a little more of a reporter. You know, you do some real journalism work, and I appreciate that, and I take my cap off for that. And people who are like covering wars, you know, the Richard Engels of the world, that, you know, those are real men. I mean, believe me, I'm not comparing myself to people like that who do real work and get information that I can then comment on. But as far as for the people who just sit behind a desk in a studio and give their opinion, I think if you're going to do that, at least be funny about it.
Well, speaking of funny, the whole Michelle Bachmann thing, it's been, as you've said, it's been a gold mine to you. What it seems to me, liberals in particular are obsessed with her. And what I find funny about it is her own party rejected her. Her own party said, we don't want you a member of leadership. John Boehner and Eric Cantor, they did everything they could to orchestrate it to make sure she was not a face of the House Republicans. And what did she do? She said, okay, I'm going to Iowa. And guess what? She's now looking like the face of the Republicans.
Well, of course this is something that the Democrats are going to want to promote. If you were the leadership of the Democratic Party, wouldn't you want to do this exact strategy? Get Sarah Palin and Michelle Bachmann and other people like that out there as the face of the party. Because you have to understand, Iowa especially is a roach motel for Republican candidates. They crawl in with their crazy stuff about social issues and saying insane stuff about the president not being an American and all this stuff. But when it comes time for the general election, they have to crawl back out, and they can't do that. I mean, that's why Mitt Romney, I think, now is probably looking like he's going to skip Iowa, because it is controlled by that small...
He's yet to announce, and you do start to wonder, is he like wants to just stay away from them?
Yes, I mean, it's a terrible trap for Republican candidates who, now we all know America does have a short memory, but still, I mean, what you say during the campaign, the primary campaign, is going to come back in commercials in the general election. And what they have to say to win the nomination and to win Iowa, and by the way, I love Iowa. I used to spend time in Iowa. It's
I have
not
more relatives buried in Iowa. Don't diss on Iowa. More relatives of mine are buried in Iowa than any other state.
Right. It's just that the small group of fanatics who control the Republican Iowa caucuses present this problem for their party, and they're not doing that party a favor. But don't let them hear me say that. You're doing your party a favor.
All right, let me ask you this. You were, to me, one of the guys that made Comedy Central, the channel, something to watch over the last couple of decades when you had Politically Incorrect on there. Did you ever think that one of the celebrity roastees, who most recently it was Donald Trump, would be taken seriously as a presidential candidate? Well, let me ask you, do you take him seriously as a presidential candidate?
I don't take him seriously even as a guy who runs casinos. And, you know, after this, and he's a charming guy in person.
Steve Wynn doesn't let him into Vegas. That says a lot. Steve Wynn won't let him into Vegas.
Don is, you know, when you meet him in person, you can't not like him.
Very likable.
But he, you know, he's a salesman. He's very likable, a major BSer. I mean, he has been telling me, I'm not kidding, I'm glad you mentioned Politically Incorrect and that era, because we were on Politically Incorrect from 1993 to 1996. We were in New York at the time. Don has been telling me he's going to be doing my show since 1993 and has never appeared once. He called me a couple of weeks ago. I'm coming on. I said, Don, it's been 18 years now. That's I know you're busy, but that's very busy that you have not found a hole in your schedule. Bill, I'm coming on. And I think he's doing it to forestall me making jokes about him. But Don, I got to tell you, I'm going to make jokes anyway. But it just amuses me. And by the way, this stuff where he's coming out as a birther, I like Don, and I've stayed at his hotel. I cannot stay in a birther hotel. I swear to God. That's all I think now when I see Trump is birther.
Why do you think he's doing this? You buy it? You buy that he really believes it?
I do not buy that. I got to think he's serious about running for president. Look, he's got the same problem that Newt Gingrich has, 3 wives, which probably doesn't go down that great with social conservatives. So he's got to do something to get his bona fide crazies up. Because, again, when you crawl into the Roach Motel in Iowa, you've got to crawl in crazy. So he's doubling down on birther stuff.
Well, I think you will. I think your caveat on Iowans will make it so that you won't get too much hate mail on Iowans. Look, we all have to. Growing up in Miami, I lived with roach motels all the time because you had to get rid of the roaches. So let's take it easy on our friends in Iowa. Bill Maher, thank you very much.
Real Time.
Okay. Real Time airs Friday nights, 10 p.m. on HBO. And on April 17th, you're performing at the Morris Arts Center in South Bend, Indiana. Go Irish. And on April 21st at the Memorial Auditorium in Raleigh, North Carolina. Bill Maher, always entertaining.
I love the red states, Chuck.
There it is. Wait, North Carolina, both were blue states in 08, brother.
That's right.
All right.